My name's Theresa Clower. I live in Black Mountain, North Carolina now. I recently, about 2 years ago, moved from Mid-Atlantic area, the Delaware, Maryland area. Shortly before we moved, my son Devin, who was 32 years old, overdosed on drugs in Baltimore. He died from fentanyl. And my daughter suggested that I attempt a portrait of Devin, just as a way of processing my grief. But I started it, and I worked on his face, his beautiful face. It was actually the last picture that was taken of Devin the night he died. And spent about 3 days, just every little detail of his face was part of this. And when I was finished, I put the drawing away, and I knew instinctively that the last step would be a really hard one. So a few days later, I pulled it out and I set it on the table and I signed my name. And it was as if I was saying goodbye to Devin. It was very, very powerful. It's hard as a mom to talk about that because, you know, you miss him, but he's in a better place. He's in a much better place. And this project, I think, has given him a reason for his death, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
As people submit their stories, what it goes to your mind?
There's a lot about the eyes. And those eyes, I have to get them right, but there's a depth to them that I can feel. I can feel I've never gone through anything quite like this, but I can actually feel the energy of this person. And I just live with that. I hold it. I hold it in my heart. I recently did a drawing of a young child. The mother wanted her daughter remembered as a young child. I thought it was going to be easier because she was a young child, and it was a beautiful picture of this little girl with her locket. And when I got into drawing her, I kept thinking about her life and what I knew was going to happen to her. And she had a very, very difficult life. So there was a rapport there that it's something that is not tangible. You can hardly even describe it, really. But there's some kind of an energy. And I honestly believe that my son and all of these people who have passed from this disease are providing me with energy. Their energy is a force. And that's how Into Light was born. That's the whole point of it, to bring forth all of these individuals and say, look, they were people who suffered from a disease, and it is a disease. We hope to define them as people that are, just like all of us, we're made up of light and dark. And no one should be defined by their darkest moments. So because of stigma, less than 10% of people worldwide come forth for help because of stigma. So if you think about that, 10%, less than 10% of the people who need help are asking for it. We've got to get past that. We've got to open this up as a disease. We have to accept the fact that it is a disease, and no one wants to live like that. My son certainly didn't. No one I've drawn wanted to. And they need the help that society can give them, but they don't need words like addict and junkie and so much of it. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do, is change language, change attitude, bring forth the beautiful side as well as the dark. I'm not going to say that my son was perfect. He was not. but he was a human being like all of us, and he deserved a lot more than what he got.
Oh, as a mother, did you know Devin's struggle with addiction?
Devin was struggling, yes, for many, many years. And when he died, he had just gotten out of treatment. He was living on his own. He was working a full-time job. He was very happy and seemingly on a really good path. And for Dev, it was a perfect storm because he had money. He had a date, which he probably should not have had. He was only about 6 months out of recovery, or into recovery. And he had a car. And so, unfortunately, we was sold drugs laced with fentanyl, which he didn't know, of course. And that's what ultimately he overdosed on. Loving your child and supporting your child is really, really critical. I think a lot of people feel that throwing them out on the street, let them, basically pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, so to speak, is the way to deal with this. And the fact is that Devin could not have managed to get the care he needed. He was so sick. Devin lied, he stole, you could never understand where this, this person was coming from. He wasn't my Devin when he was using, but we stayed with him, and I thank goodness every day that I was able to help him, and he never felt without love. He knew his family was there for him.